Hey guys, so 20 minutes in newborn mom world is about an hour, if you were just wondering. But I'm super excited to take the next little bit and share with you guys my experience with Hayden and our birth experience. We had a VBAC. I had a C-section with the twins due to Grayson failure to grow while he was in my belly. So we made the decision to do a C-section. So I'm going to give you a little background before we jump into delivery day. When I first found out we were pregnant, I figured it was just one. So I went with the OB that I had been seeing and that I saw for majority of the twins' pregnancy up until about 32 weeks when I saw a new OB because I needed to do fetal monitoring for 2 and had to go to a different office and whatever. So I switched doctors at that point for the twins and met with Dr. Herbst, who was absolutely amazing. He ended up delivering the twins. I had an amazing C-section. I recovered great. My scar healed amazing. No complications. He really was an awesome doctor, and his bedside manner and just ability to calm me down and just keep me sane, but really give me the facts that I needed, but not overwhelm me and scare me. So when I got pregnant with Hayden, I just figured it was one pregnancy. It was going to be a simple C-section and we would just go for it. And so I went to the original doctor that I started to see with the twins, and she was great. The first 16 weeks, it was fine. And then I just started to have this really bad anxiety about delivery and the C-section, and having a new doctor operate on you with a big surgery, I started to just kind of like, why would I do this? Like, maybe I should switch. I should have switched before. Why shouldn't I see Herbst? And the doctor that I was most comfortable with is 20 minutes south. So her convenience of schedule was her schedule was a little bit more convenient, where with him, I would have to take the kids with me at every doctor's appointment and kind of be a little bit more work. But I ultimately decided, Matt and I decided together, that he was a better option and he was a better fit for me as a doctor. Like I said before, he was very calming. His bedside manner was great. He was able to show me the risks and show me what was, what I could expect, but at the same time, give some grace and some love and some patience. And that's exactly what I needed through this pregnancy. So at around 30 to 32 weeks, we went on bed rest. And again, he showed that grace, this is what I need you to do. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to get you to 36 weeks. I promise you that. And we're going to do this together. So I met with him at week 33, and he asked me, he goes, why are you doing a C-section? And I said, well, to be honest, I'm doing the C-section because it's convenient. I have 2 toddlers at home, and I have the ability to plan the birth of this baby and to be able to plan when the baby will come and who can come down and help Matt and I with the 3rd baby and the kids when we deliver was a huge peace of mind for me. We don't have a ton of family down in Florida. We don't have any family. We have family who are friends who have turned into family and would be there for us in a heartbeat. But I just wanted to have the security for the twins as we went through this transition. So he kind of looked at me and he was like, have you ever thought about a VBAC? And I said, I really didn't think it was possible. I said, I've had friends down here that have inquired about it, and it's kind of like finding a doctor to do that I didn't think it was an option. And he just looked at me, he goes, you are a perfect candidate for a VBAC. He goes, you're healthy, you're young. He knows what my surgery was like for the C-section. He did it, he performed it. He was like, you've had a great pregnancy. Your body has never gone into labor. So we don't know how your body will respond to labor. And, he goes, if you were my wife, you would be avoiding a C-section, which is major surgery. And he goes, let me ask you this. How are you going to care for the twins and a newborn and yourself for 6 weeks recovery? And I really hadn't thought about it because when we had a C-section with the twins, obviously we didn't have children at home and they were in the NICU for 16 days. So I had the first 16 days after I became a mom to, recover. I had 16 whole days to be on the couch and rest and recover and take my medicine and eat and drink. And, we traveled back and forth to the NICU to care for them. But again, I didn't have this huge stress that I was going to have coming home to 2 toddlers. I'm sorry, I'm going to cry through this, but to 2 toddlers who were adjusting to mommy being gone for a few days, being up in bed and just kind of that. So he kind of put into perspective what I was risking for simply planning the birth of Hayden. And so Matt and I went home, and I remember calling my mom being like, this guy wants me to do what? And kind of let go of that security. And this whole journey has been about what God has planned for me and planned for our family and planned for Hayden. And I, sorry, I know that he has something great planned for her. And this was just part of it. This delivery was part of it. And so I was talking to Matt, and I said, I really think we should go for it. I really think, I owe it to myself to try. I owe it to the kids to try so that my recovery time is so much better. And I was like, let's just go for it. So we decided at 33 weeks to go for a VBAC. So now I needed to start figuring out what labor looked like, what labor felt like, signs and symptoms and kind of all that stuff, because I was kind of putting it off. And then about 35, 36 weeks, we found out my doctor was leaving on August 12 for vacation, which was Hayden's delivery day. So I was a little anxious knowing that I was going to feel like I had to deliver before he left, because I wanted to make sure if I was going to do this VBAC, I wanted to go with a doctor who believed in me, who encouraged me, and who I felt most comfortable with. Because if I went into labor with anxiety and stress and just the emotional, part of that, I don't think it would have been a very good labor. So I was really starting to freak out. But he was so calm, and he was like, this is what we can do. And, this is what we watch, and this is how we handle this. So we decided that if I wasn't dilating or making any progress by Monday before my 40 weeks, then we would do a balloon dilation that Monday and get me dilated, and he would break my water and give me a small dose of Pitocin and start things along, which I was okay with, because that meant that he would deliver, and that meant that my mind and my heart would feel a little bit more at ease. So we went in Monday before my 40-week date, and he swept my membranes, and I was 1 centimeter dilated and about 80% effaced. So he felt good about the progress that I was making on my own, which is why he swept my membranes. Didn't really go home and see much change. There wasn't a huge shift. I was just driving my husband and my mom crazy. Before we left the office, he said, here's my cell phone number, text me when you're ready, and we'll meet you at the hospital, and we'll get things going for you. We'll break your water, and we'll see where you're at. We might have to use some Pitocin or not. I did not want to use 100% Pitocin to get me into labor. That was something that I wasn't willing to risk. If my body just wasn't ready, then I'd have to suck it up. But Tuesday by 5 o'clock, I just told Matthew, I said, please text him. Let's just go to the hospital and see what we can do. So we got in the car at 5 o'clock, and when we were driving to the hospital, I was like, Matt, I think my contractions are 8 minutes apart. And so when we got to the hospital, got hooked up to the monitor, my contractions were about 7 to 8 minutes apart. Dr. Hertz came in, and he broke my water at 7:25 on Tuesday. So he broke my water, and not much really changed. I felt okay. My contractions went to about 6 minutes, and that lasted until about 11:30, and then I went into excruciating pain. Apparently, I've heard about back labor, but I didn't research back labor. I didn't really look it up. I didn't really focus on it. But that's what I was experiencing, which we found out later. But what that meant for me, and most people who have back labor, is you never feel relief. I felt always in a state of contraction. So every time I was contracting, I never felt like I stopped. I felt like I was contracting all the time. So I finally asked for some Demerol around 1:30, 2 o'clock, and she came in and gave me some of that so that I could relax. And I was like, I just want to relax. I just need my body to just stress. I was holding onto the bed rail like this for dear life, every contraction. And poor Matthew, he was trying so hard to be so supportive, and all I told him to do was just sit on the other side of the room, because I didn't want to be talked to. I didn't want to be touched. There was nothing you could say. There was nothing you could do. And at that point, he was just feeling really bad. He tried to rub my back, and I about shoot him off. But so I finally fell asleep after the Demerol, which hit me like that. And then about 2:30, I woke up just in a cold sweat, just sweating, screaming bloody murder because my contractions hurt so bad. And then Hayden's heart rate was starting to drop. It was going down to 90, it was going down to 100, and then 130, and then on 99 again. So Dr. Herbst, how great he is, had my strip and Hayden's strip on his phone at home. So he could see and hear everything. So when his phone went into like a crazy mode, he was able to call and check on me, which was so great. And the nurses there were amazing. And so 3 nurses came rushing in, and I woke up, and I was just in excruciating pain. Like, I can't even describe it. It's true. You don't remember the pain, but you know that you had it. And I asked, she did a check because my contractions at that point were 2 to 3 minutes apart. So they were frequent and they were painful, and they were in my back, they were in my belly, and my arms were starting to hurt because I was holding onto the bedroll so hard at every contraction, and my body just ached. And I remember looking at Matt going, I'm so glad I worked out. I'm so glad I was in decent shape when I got pregnant. And I'm so glad that I was healthy through my pregnancy, because I don't know how I would handle this right now if I hadn't. And she checked me, and I was still only 1 centimeter dilated since they broke my water at 7:30 after all these contractions. And I remember just throwing my head back and crying to Matt going, how can I do any more of this? Like, I can't do any more. I can't. I was in so much pain. And I felt like it had been for forever and for nothing to not make any progress for dilating. And I couldn't get an epidural until I was 4 centimeters. And so I had no relief. I just had to kind of go through it. So she came in and checked again at like 4, and I had gone to 2 centimeters. And then at 5:30 or something, because my contractions were so close, they wanted to make sure that they weren't missing something. I was about 3 to 4, she was guessing. And then finally at 6:30, I was like, you have to check again. Like, I can't do anymore. I'm in so much pain. And she told me I was 4 centimeters, and I about cried again. And I was like, no, oh my God, give me the freaking epidural. Please just get him in here. So they put in for an epidural. About 6:30, he comes, and the nurse had warned me. She goes, he's great at what he does. He's a great anesthesiologist, but he has no bedside manner. And when you've been in labor for 11 hours with back pain and no medication, no food, no water, you're a little testy yourself. So I was so thankful that she gave me that little information, so that when he did come in and he was, himself, he was very nice, but he was, himself, and he was in there to get a job done, and that was it. I was thankful she did that, because it mentally helped me know that, like, it's just him, it's not me, it's not anything else other than that. So he did the epidural. He got on the first try. It was great, and I immediately felt so much relief and just calmness, and I could actually, like, rest. And so that's what we did. I just rested, and I was so nervous because I've heard so many stories that once you get the epidural, you slow down your dilation. And I was like, oh, I just made it to 4. Like, how much longer am I going to get? But I also remember, like, I didn't want to be 12 hours of more labor in the most excruciating pain if I had an opportunity to diminish it. So an epidural doesn't take away complete back labor because of where you can have back labor, but I got a good chunk of it relieved, and I could just rest finally. I could just sit and just relax, which is what I just mostly wanted. I didn't care if I felt anything major. I just needed to let my body relax. So the next few hours are kind of a blur. I don't know how fast I progressed after I got the epidural, but I do know that we talked about doing laboring down, which means that I just wouldn't have to push as long, hopefully, which didn't happen in our case, but to let Hayden kind of naturally push her way down and make her way, where she needed to be. So we just let me sit at 10 centimeters from about 10 o'clock to about 11. And then we took my epidural down at my request so that I could start to feel the contractions, to be able to push with the contractions. And at about 11:25, my amazing nurse came in and she said, okay, we can't wait anymore. We have to push you've had your water broke for too long, you were at risk for infection. And when her heart rate dropped, I was on the previous night, I was on oxygen. So I was still having oxygen with me. So during labor, I was on an oxygen mask on and off when I didn't push. So that way we made sure that Hayden was safe and that I was safe having the extra oxygen. So we started pushing at 11:25 and I had no freaking clue what I was doing. So if you are about to deliver a baby, I really recommend you read up on how to push a baby out because I feel like that would have been so helpful instead of basing my knowledge on what I saw on TV because I had no clue what I was supposed to do. But I had, and this is what I contribute this to our successful experience is my labor team, husband included, were just absolutely amazing. I could not have asked for better nurses to be calm and nice, and even the pediatric nurse that was there to get Hayden was so amazing. Just finding different ways to help me push and to finally settled on a row your boat method. And the pediatric nurse came up with that, and she was just so helpful. And I think there was a team of 5 nurses in there helping me. And Matt was my little encourager, and just being so, he was so funny because he was like, babe, just, 30 more minutes or 40 more minutes until you get to meet your baby. And I was like, all I want to do is eat and drink. I don't even care. I just want to eat and drink something. I'm so hungry and I'm so thirsty. And he was like, okay, well, forget the baby then. In 30 minutes, I'll get you some water. I was like, okay. And so we were just kind of laughing, quote unquote, if you can, laugh during labor. But the nurses were laughing, and Jose was like, I'll bring you the whole bar. I'll bring you apple juice. I'll bring you orange juice. I'll bring you cranberry juice. I'll bring you water. I just need you to push. So we pushed, and like I said, they were so great. We did a towel method. We just did pushing. We just, Matt held my leg and helped me push my feet, like bless his heart. And then the sweet pediatric nurse came up with this method, and it worked. It worked like a charm. It was what I felt most comfortable with and where I felt like I had the most power. And eventually, about 12:10, my epidural was worn off enough that I could push with the contractions. And so that would be my other thing. If you can get past that mentally and you can take the epidural down so you can push with the contraction, it is going to be so incredibly helpful. When I could feel the contraction come, it was so much easier to push from my belly and to push from where I needed to versus from where else felt natural. So I highly encourage you to talk to your doctor about that and talk about options that you may have if you are able to do that. And so we got super close, and everyone just kept saying, she's right there. And I kept saying, I don't believe you. I don't feel it. Like, there's no change. I don't feel any different than I did an hour ago. And I was getting so frustrated. And so, much to my dismay and not something that I wanted to happen, Matthew requested them to bring in the mirror. And my mom told me to do this. And I was like, I do not want to watch this. I do not want to watch this. And, it was exactly what I needed to finish. And so Matt knew that. He knew that if I could see that, if I could visually see what was happening, if I could visually see that head of hair, that I would be able to just muster up the courage and the energy and just give it what I could to get her out, because we were so hungry and so thirsty. And we were at risk for infection because we were going at 19 hours post my water breaking. So I knew I needed to get her out. So 12:29, I last pushed. We got her out. He did have 2 cut. So I have an episiotomy because Hayden had the cord wrapped around her neck twice. Which thankfully he didn't tell me until they got her out and she was out. And Dr. Herbst and I had talked about it in episiotomy. He said, I don't do them unless I absolutely have to. And I trust his judgment 110%. And so I knew when he got the scissors that, like, I wasn't mad. I wasn't upset. I just knew that he was doing what was best for me and Hayden. So they handed me Hayden, and she was white, and she was pale, and it was scary. And so they were trying to give her to me to like do skin to skin and just to say hi and see her. And I just kept saying, you need to take her. You need to take her. She's not breathing. I haven't heard her cry. She's really pale. You just need to take her. You just need to take her. And so they took her over to the little whatever crib thing to get her going and to get her moving. And the pediatric nurse was there to get her, and she ended up fine. Matt jokes that he again has 3 children and has never made the first umbilical cord cut because Dr. Herbst had to cut the cord. I finally heard her cry, and I remember just looking at Matt saying, what do we get to name her? And Matthew and I he really liked the name Briella, but I just really felt that God had placed the name Hayden Grace on my heart since I was 10 weeks pregnant, so before we even knew what we were having. I just knew that was her name, and that was what God wanted her to be called. And so I had shared that with Matt, and I looked at him and I said, so what do we name her? Do you want Hayden or Briella? He goes, it's always been Hayden. It's Hayden Grace. And so we named her, and they got her all situated, and we brought her over to me, and she was this healthy little girl with a head full of hair. And she was fine. She had an APGAR score of 8.9 and then 9.9 after 5 minutes, just due to her color, which is from the cord. But no jaundice. Her bilirubin was great. Her blood work is phenomenal. Her heart rate is fabulous, and she was a perfect little baby. And so I sat there, and Dr. Herbst finished, and we wrapped up and did what we needed to do. And I will tell you that the reason I had a successful VBAC, and if it's something you're ever considering, find a doctor who encourages it. Don't find a doctor that's just going with the flow or going at your request. Find a doctor that truly believes in you, that you can do it, that truly believes that that's the best option for you and your baby. Because that completely made my experience. That completely gave me the confidence in myself to do it. And he was there. He's like, every time he came and saw me in the morning before we delivered, and he said, don't forget our plan. Our plan is a vaginal birth. Our plan is not a C-section. Our plan is a vaginal birth. And he just really encouraged Matt, and he really encouraged me. And so I just really encourage you that if it's something that you're, considering, to make sure that your doctor is on board. And he knew that Pitocin wasn't my first choice. He knew that the C-section wasn't on my cards anymore. And he was very helpful with that. And then I would, you don't have much control of this, but find an awesome nursing staff. We had never been to this hospital before. I had never stepped foot in this hospital until delivery day, and I had no idea what I was getting into. But these nurses went above and beyond. I cannot even it takes special people to do what they do. And through the whole back labor, my nurse Courtney was absolutely amazing. She made me a homemade back heating pad. She was so patient. She was so kind. She was so great with Matt. And Jose, who did my delivery, who was my delivery day nurse, was just so patient and funny and made me laugh and kind of just made me calm and at ease, and felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. And they had a whole team come in, and Latoya was in there, and she was phenomenal. I had her the rest of my stay. And then make sure you're on the same page with your spouse. I couldn't have done it without Matt. He was a huge support. So make sure you communicate with your spouse on what you need. I wish I would have communicated with him a little bit more about how I was feeling during contractions. But if your spouse knows you, they can be your best advocate. And he knew exactly when to call for that mirror. He knew exactly what to say. He knew exactly how to get me motivated and keep me motivated, and to just be a support and be an encourager and to cheer me on. And he was exactly that. And, he's been that the whole time. So thank you for listening. It's crazy to think that it was already 9 days ago. But I'm healing so well. I feel so great. And when I see Dr. Herbst in 3 weeks, I'll probably give him the biggest hug that I I could ever give, because I'm so grateful for the experience that I was able to have. I told my mom, I was like, and I told Matthew, I said, I'm just proud of myself. Like, I'm just so proud of myself. And you hear that from people who deliver babies, and you know, you don't think anything of it, but you really are. It really is a miracle what your body can do and recover from, because I felt like death, and here I am. But just give yourself that option if you are healthy, if you can, if you have the ability and the support to do a vaginal birth after cesarean. I just really encourage you to look up your options, to seek out doctors who support you, because it really was the best experience. And I'm so grateful that I got to experience that and to finish this journey how God intended it. And that go with something that felt safe and felt planned and felt very me, but something that was out of my comfort zone. And I tell Matt and I tell my team that, you know, I had these big business plans. I had these huge goals that I wanted to meet this year. And we found out we were pregnant, and, you know, it's just, things kind of didn't go that way because that's not where God intended me. But this was my moment to feel proud this year. This was my moment to do something that I never thought I could do, and to be able to share with you guys just the experience, and to encourage you that if you have the opportunity to do it, to find a doctor who supports you, find a team that supports you, do your research. I got on a Facebook page online that was all about VBAC support, and answered questions and shared testimonials and things like that. And that was really helpful. It gave me some confidence to move forward in my decision, and just feel confident in it. So I think the biggest thing is, I think anyone can do a VBAC as long as you're healthy, as long as your doctor is supportive. I think that's the biggest thing, is you just need to make sure you find a doctor who is on your team and is an advocate for you, and knows your wishes and knows what you want out of this. And I had that. And I think because of that, you know, it was successful, and it was everything that I could have hoped for, even, you know, with the cord around the neck and coming out with a pale baby and things like that. But again, I never panicked. I never worried. I just knew that I was in the best hands that God had prepared us for and prepped for us. And I'm so thankful. So thank you for listening. Tag a friend if you know a friend that's going through this, or if you have any questions or want to talk privately, I'm always here. It might take a little bit to get back to you these days, but I would be happy to share more of my story if you're interested, or if you just have some questions about a VBAC. I will do another video maybe next week on what I think you should have in the hospital with you, and what not to bring for you and baby and husband, because I think that would have been really helpful too. So I'll check that out next week and give you guys maybe a little take-along photo that you can have as well for those of you who are expecting. So thank you for listening. Thank you for hopping on. I really appreciate it. And I love you guys. Thanks for sharing in me and Hayden and Matt's journey. We'll talk to you later.